White oak is one of the preeminent hardwoods of eastern and central North America. Some white oaks have been documented to be over 450 years old. Although called a white oak, it is very unusual to find an individual tree with white bark. The usual color is a light gray. The name comes from the color of the finished wood. The white oaks that grow in the woods can reach a magnificent height, and in the open, they can develop into massive broad-top trees with large branches striking out at wide angles. White oaks can reach heights of 80 to 100 feet at maturity, and its canopy can become quite large as its lower branches are normally extended far out parallel to the ground. Trees growing in the woods will become much taller than the ones in an open area, which develop to be short and massive. This is because the ones in the woods are competing for sunlight, whereas the ones in the open grow wider so they can maximize the surface area that is receiving the sunlight. It is not unusual for a white oak tree to be as wide as it is tall, if the tree is not competing for nutrient. White oak has tyloses that gives the wood a closed cellular structure, making it water and rot resistant. Because of this characteristic, white oak is used by coopers to make wine and whiskey barrels as the wood resists leaking. It has also been used in construction, shipbuilding, agricultural implements, and in the interior finishing of houses. Most white oaks may live 200 to 300 years, but there have been some white oaks documented to be over 450 years old. White oak sexual maturity begins at around 20 years old, but the tree does not produce large quantities of acorns until its 50th year, and the amount varies from year to year. These acorns make excellent food for the wildlife. Turkeys, wood ducks, pheasants, woodpeckers, rabbits, squirrels, and deer love to eat white oak acorns. White oak logs feature prominent medullary rays, which produce a distinctive decorative ray and fleck pattern when the wood is quarter-sawn. Barrels made of white oak are commonly used for aging of wine, in which the wood is noted for imparting strong flavors. Also, by the federal regulation, bourbon whiskey must be aged and charred in American white oak barrels. One of the ways people have been using the wood from white oaks is for construction. As far back as the late 1700s, people have been using white oak wood to build ships. The famous USS Constitution, commissioned by George Washington in 1974, was constructed using wood from white oaks. It's said that the ship's hull, which consisted of 3 layers, had both an outer and inner horizontal layer that were constructed from white oak. And people still use this wood for construction today, as it's a popular feature in many homes as well as furniture. One of the coolest white oak facts is that it's native to North America. This tree has been a staple in this area for centuries and continues to thrive in many regions. In the U.S., the white oak tree can be found growing from Minnesota to Maine and continues to be found in states as far south as Florida. People have been using the fruits from white oak trees in North America for just as long. Native Americans were known to use the acorns by leaching the nut meat to remove the tannins and then grinding it into flour for cooking. White oak trees are unique because they grow both male and female flowers. The male flower ranges between 2 and 4 inches long and are green or yellowish in color, while the female flower appears slightly red in color. Acorns are actually fruit from the fertilized female flower. While not considered an edible species, historical evidence suggests that Native Americans consumed white oak acorns after boiling them. The leaves of the white oak tree are about 5 inches long and 3 inches wide, with from 7 to 9 round-ended lobes on each leaf. The upper sides are a blue-green color, with the underneath surface a whitish shade of green. The white oak's wood, when first cut, is light beige to almost white, an aspect of the tree that gives it its name. The grayish bark features grooves and rectangular scales, with deep grooves appearing at the bottom portion of the trunk on older white oaks. A variety of insects will launch attack on white oak. Among them are the larvae of the gypsy moth and other moths. The caterpillars, when present in large numbers, may defoliate sections of the tree. Other bug pests like the oak leaf caterpillar and orange-striped oakworm can devour foliage. Economically, the most significant insect that bothers white oak are the wood borers, which can cause defects in the lumber of still-standing trees. Scales are a group of insect pests that feed on sap and cause fungus to grow on the trees. A common white oak tree adaptation to insects feeding and laying eggs is the development of galls. Galls are areas of irregular tissue growth that can become harmful to the tree over time. If you have watched any of my past videos, I have been milling pine, poplar, and cedar, mostly poplar. The poplar is very soft compared to white oak. The white oak that I was milling today is the first time that I have ever milled a hardwood tree. Before milling this white oak, I was milling 2 poplar logs. I just put a fresh blade on before those 2 poplar logs, and then I milled this white oak. I was able to get 2 slabs off of this white oak before I had to change my blade. I was noticing that I was having to push too hard and the blade was starting to dip and make gullies in the wood, so I decided to change my blade. But that's just how quick these blades go dull whenever you're milling a hardwood tree. These slabs that I milled today are 8/4, which is 2 inches thick, and I milled a few at 6/4, which is 1.5 inches thick. These slabs will take about a year or 2 to dry completely before I'm able to use them for furniture, but I am planning on building a kiln sometime soon, which will allow these slabs to dry a lot quicker. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.